Tensions remain high at Steubenville's public library over a controversy spanning over half the year. Good evening and thank you for joining us here on Franciscan Beat News at 4:30. I'm Thomas Payer. For more than half a year, there's been controversy at the public library of Steubenville and Jefferson County over LGBTQ+ books and some of the displays that were seen in June for Pride Month. Well, now the library is limiting public participation at its monthly board meetings, causing folks on both sides of this issue to speak out. News 9's Chloe Messagaitis reports that each person will have 3 minutes to make a public comment at future meetings. That means just 30 minutes total for public comment. And it's important to note it's not something you can do for 2 consecutive months. If you address the board in December, you cannot do so in January. You will have to wait until February. Concerned citizens are pointing out that they are able to be heard for longer and more often by the city council and even officials like Mayor Jerry Barilla. Library Director Mike Gray told News 9 that the rules put in place by the library are very similar to those across the state. In the meantime, these books and displays will remain in the library and the new meeting rules will go into effect tomorrow. Steubenville Mayor Jerry Barilla announced on Facebook yesterday that the city of Steubenville will be the first city to be featured in the revival of a beloved holiday series. NBC's The Today Show is bringing back Merriest Main Streets. The show highlights towns across the country that bring the most cheer to this holiday season. If you want the chance to be on The Today Show or just want to take part in the festivities, head down to the Christmas Tree Plaza at historic Fort Steuben by 7:15 a.m. tomorrow morning. That's Friday, December 1st. Or tune in to our local NBC affiliate, WOTOV, on Channel 9. On Tuesday, Franciscan University held a chartering ceremony for its new Coast Guard Auxiliary program. With the formation of the new unit, Franciscan University becomes one of only 23 universities in the nation, including UNC Chapel Hill, the College of William and Mary, and Texas A&M, to be officially recognized by the U.S. Coast Guard. According to Dr. Charles Nemeth, director of the university's Criminal Justice Program and U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Liaison, the graduates of this program enhance the potential for acceptance into the U.S. Coast Guard's highly selective Officer Candidate School, saying the program is, quote, an amazing opportunity for students to serve others in times of need, disaster, and emergency. The program provides an endless array of certification options for highly needed skill sets such as cybersecurity, incident command, telecommunications, and leadership at many levels. Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, the diplomat who dominated foreign policy as the United States extricated itself from Vietnam and who broke down barriers with China, died last night at his Connecticut home. With his gruff yet commanding presence and behind-the-scenes manipulation of power, Kissinger exerted uncommon influence on global affairs under Presidents Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford, earning both vilification and the Nobel Peace Prize. Decades later, his name is still provoking impassioned debate over foreign policy landmarks long past. Kissinger's power grew during the turmoil of Watergate, when the politically attuned diplomat assumed a role akin to co-president to a weakened Richard Nixon. He was a Jew who fled Nazi Germany with his family in his teens. In his later years, Kissinger earned the reputation of a respected statesman, giving speeches, offering advice to Republicans and Democrats alike, and managing a global consulting firm. He turned up in President Donald Trump's White House on multiple occasions. Henry Kissinger was 100 years old. Former First Lady Rosalynn Carter was laid to rest yesterday on the grounds of her and former U.S. President Jimmy Carter's home in Plains, Georgia, following an intimate funeral at Maranatha Baptist Church, where she and her husband spent decades welcoming guests and where a wooden cross Jimmy Carter fashioned in his woodshop is still displayed. The former president, now 99 years old and in hospice care, sat in a wheelchair next to Maranatha's front pew, wearing a dark suit and tie to say goodbye to his wife of 77 years. Rosalynn Carter died last Sunday after just 2 days after entering hospice at the age of 96. A New York appeals court reinstated a gag order today that barred former U.S. President Donald Trump from commenting about court personnel after he continually disparaged a law clerk in his New York civil fraud trial. The one-sentence decision from a 4-judge panel came 2 weeks after an individual appellate judge put the order on hold while the appeals process played out. Trial Judge Arthur N. Gordon, who imposed the gag order, says he now plans to enforce it, quote, rigorously and vigorously. and Gordon imposed the initial gag order on October 3rd after Trump posted a derogatory comment about the judge's law clerk to social media. The post, which included a baseless allegation about the clerk's personal life, came the second day of the trial in a lawsuit brought against Trump by New York Attorney General Letitia James. The lawsuit alleges Trump exaggerated his wealth on financial statements used to secure loans and to make deals. Trump denies any wrongdoing. Republican Representative George Santos is defiantly refusing to resign ahead of a third bipartisan attempt by his colleagues to expel him from the House tomorrow. To be successful, that vote requires a two-thirds majority. The first-term Republican congressman from New York could become the sixth member of the House to be expelled from Congress. Earlier this afternoon, CBC News reported that a group called the Chiefs of Ontario, which represents more than 130 First Nations in the Canadian province, have filed for a judicial review, asking the federal court to exempt their communities from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's federal carbon tax, a policy they call grossly unfair and discriminatory. The First Nations argue that the imposition of the price on carbon tax is leaving their communities worse off than others in Canada and breaches the principles of reconciliation. Last month, the Prime Minister implemented a temporary exemption from the carbon tax on home heating oil, but that exemption only benefits the Atlantic provinces. Trudeau continues to face criticism from Conservative opposition leader Pierre Poilievre, who is demanding that the Prime Minister does away with the controversial tax altogether. In sports news, former Chicago Blackhawks right-winger Corey Perry has cleared waivers and has had his contract terminated by Chicago, leaving him as an unrestricted free agent in the NHL. The team said Tuesday in a statement that an internal investigation showed Perry acted in violation of his NHL standard player contract and club policies, quote, intended to promote professional and safe work environments. Chicago put Perry on unconditional waivers that same day. The team has not given any indication as to what Perry did to warrant these actions, but the rumors are flying among fans of the league across the U.S. and Canada. General Manager Kyle Davidson said on Tuesday, quote, this does not involve any players or their families, and anything that suggests otherwise or anyone that suggests otherwise is wildly inaccurate, and frankly, it's disgusting. Pope Francis has decided to punish one of his highest-ranking critics, Cardinal Raymond Burke, by revoking his right as a retired cardinal to a subsidized Vatican apartment and salary. The Holy Father told a meeting of the heads of the Vatican offices last week that he was moving against Burke because he was a source of, quote, disunity in the church and was using those privileges against the church. When asked about the Holy Father's decision, Vatican spokesman Matteo Bruni didn't deny the reports, but referred questions to Cardinal Burke, saying, quote, I don't have anything particular to say about that. At the same briefing, Matteo Bruni told reporters that due to the Holy Father's, quote, flu-like condition and inflammation of the lungs, doctors have advised the Holy Father not to make the trip to Dubai planned for tomorrow morning. The Holy Father was planning to participate in the United Nations COP28 climate summit. Earlier today, the Holy Father appointed a new bishop for the Ukrainian Catholic Eparchy of Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, Canada. Father Michael Smolinski, until now the provincial superior of the Congregation of the Redemptorists in Canada, will become the eparchy's sixth bishop since the establishment of the eparchy in 1956. Details of the episcopal ordination and enthronement have yet to be released. Finally, tonight, the Holy Father has sent a traditional message for the feast of St. Andrew the Apostle to Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew I, saying, quote, let us fervently pray to God our merciful Father that the clamor of arms, which brings only death and destruction, may cease, and that government and religious leaders may always seek the path of dialogue and reconciliation. We thank you again for watching Franciscan Beat News every weekday at 4:30. I'm Thomas Pear. Good night and God bless.